From pretty obvious stunt doubles to those just about noticeable times an animated show got unintentionally weird. And with a special shout out to the wonderful folks at Our Movie Mistakes, let's dive into the TV errors that somehow made their way out into the world. I'm Gareth, this is What Culture, and here are 10 TV mistakes you won't believe made it to screen. Number 10, that's a funny way to sign a book, Doctor Who. Arguably one of the oddest Doctor Who occurrences you won't believe reach screens didn't have anything to do with time travel, alien creatures, or sonic screwdrivers. Jumping back to The End of Time Part 2, Jessica Hines Verity Newman can be found signing books for fans of her A Journey of Impossible Things novel, inspired by her great-grandmother's diary. Look closely at the way Newman scribbles her signature in the copy handed to her by none other than David Tennant's Doctor though, and you'll spot a pretty strange writing technique. Possibly because the folks involved didn't want to ruin the pages of this specific prop, Hines' pen doesn't come anywhere near the page as she's pretending to make the autograph out to the Doctor. All that lining up for nothing, how rude. Now I've got a quick question for you, who is your favourite Doctor? Let me know in the comment section down below, baby. Number 9, a stunt double in Paris, Emily in Paris. In an attempt to negate the risks that could arise from having Lily Collins do the scooting, when Lucien Laviscount Alfie is offered a ride on a Vespa by Emily in Season 2, it looks like the folks behind Emily in Paris had a double plan. As Collins initially enjoys her ride along some French roads, it appears the actor herself is very much perched on the vehicle. However, it becomes clear in the moments that followed Lucien hopping on behind her that this Emily was swapped out for another for the two-person ride. But what makes this one feel like such a jarring flaw is the fact that said stunt double's legs look nothing like Collins. Again, the showrunners evidently felt the safer option was to have Collins watch a more qualified or confident rider control the scooter for this moment. But that doesn't change the fact that the call ultimately resulted in some rather inconsistent Emily limbs for one scene. Number 8, a recently taken photo actually happened yesterday, The Bear. During the exceptional second season of the cooking dramedy that is The Bear, Lionel Boyce's pastry chef Marcus Brooks takes a trip to Copenhagen to learn a thing or two from another skilled pastry chef by the name of Luca, played by Will Poulter. And it's here where Marcus decides to do what anyone would after preparing a few wonderful and utterly stunning desserts. Take some photos on his phone, and probably post them on Instagram. But within this particularly sweet gesture, with Marcus taking said images to send back to his sick mother at home, is a pretty unexpected mistake. The Bear's dessert king is shown eventually capturing an image of his latest creation and sending it to his mom. Only if you really focus on the phone screen in the moments this immaculate dish is seemingly fired back home, you'll soon spot that the photo in question was actually taken the day before. It's likely this particular sequence was simply shot over a few days, and the folks behind the show were hoping you'd be too busy dribbling over the grub to focus on this tiny error. But if you take a second to wipe your mouth, it's pretty hard to unsee this seemingly just taken photo from the past. Number 7, Jerry's mic is rather visible, Seinfeld. Coming during the second episode of Seinfeld Season 8, Jerry and George discuss the Jerry Lewis trick whilst walking down the street early on. But as the former pivots away from talking about whitefish, his moving of his jacket suddenly reveals a wire taped to his blue shirt. It was likely just a case of the star forgetting to keep his coat from opening as he performed the brief gesture, with this movement accidentally showing off the lav mic that was capturing his dialogue while the co-stars exchange words outside. By the time someone caught this brief mic slip in the editing process, it was likely deemed too small a mistake to justify going back to reshoot the moment, so Jerry remained very much wired in the finished product instead. Number 6, SpongeBob forgets what he made Squidward's jumper out of, SpongeBob SquarePants. In SpongeBob SquarePants Season 2's Dying for Pie episode, the titular square of optimism gifts his eternally negative pal Squidward a sweater, one made entirely from his own eyelashes apparently, because of course. However, during the moment SpongeBob delivers this shocking piece of information, his complete lack of eyebrows suggests that this item of clothing wasn't made up of simply eyelashes at all. Now sure, those are missing too, and while the animators may have just chosen to draw in a set of stripped away eyebrows, eyebrows as a way to really put over the joke, despite SpongeBob never usually possessing a pair? Wouldn't it have just been simpler to change the bloody line? And after all that, Squidward still only went and launched this deeply personal present back at the enthusiastic Sponge. What a damn waste. Number 5, Stewie randomly turns purple. Family Guy. You may remember an early Family Guy episode involving a certain Stewie Griffin gradually turning into an octopus creature after tumbling into some nuclear waste. That actually goes down towards the latter stages of Season 2's 3rd episode, which makes a moment that occurs a little earlier in Da Boom seem a little bizarre when looking back. In the wake of a nuclear holocaust, the Griffins go searching for food. It's here when Chris attempts to bring his plant along for the ride. But if you keep an eye on Stewie as he's being held by Lois outside, you'll spot a pretty glaring error. For a few seconds, the youngest Griffin's arms and legs turn the same color purple as the tentacles he will eventually grow later in the episode, before switching back to his usual skin tone. As noted by some fans on Reddit, the fact this happened before Stewie even got exposed to radiation was likely down to someone simply getting their shots mixed up when coloring in the scenes before the ep eventually made its way onto screens. But that doesn't change the fact that for a second there, someone accidentally foreshadowed Stewie's octopus fate. Number 4 are those Cranston and Co. stand-ins, Malcolm in the Middle. During Malcolm in the Middle Season 2's Casino episode, Bryan Cranston's Hal, Frankie Muniz's Malcolm, and Justin Burfield's Reese can all be found sharing the desert with a puma at one point, as you do. Only if you pause the scene just as the wildcat wanders towards the terrified family, it's fairly apparent that the stars were nowhere to be seen here. Admittedly, it may have been a little easier to hide this sort of blatant stand-in swap back when the show was largely only being viewed in 4:3 aspect ratio. But even if that may have slightly hidden the lack of Cranston here before the days of 16:9 screens, it still wouldn't have fully disguised the fact that Muniz and Burfield were evidently not on set at this point either. It also helped that you weren't really given enough time to properly register this noticeable actor swap, with the sight of a deadly cat closing in and eventually being blown to pieces, successfully distracting the average middle lover. Until now. Number 3, talking on an upside down phone, The Vampire Diaries. Along with trying to react naturally to the person they're sharing a set or conversation with, actors are also typically doing their best to keep on top of their own continuity during a scene. Sometimes this is easier said than done, of course, with some more complicated scenes requiring a ton of movement and props. But other times it can be as simple as remembering the correct way to hold a mobile phone. Ian Somerhalder unfortunately must have been having one of those days during Season 4, Episode 9 of The Vampire Diaries though, and was likely too locked into his phone call as Damon with Paul Wesley Stephan to notice he'd made the mistake of speaking into an upside-down device for much of one particular scene. Thankfully, someone must have given him a nudge in another take, and the object finally found itself back in a normal position. But not before Damon was oddly made to look like he'd never touched a phone in all his years on planet Earth. Number 2, a Viking rows without an oar. Vikings. There's forgetting how to use an item when the cameras are a-rolling, and then there's being told to pretend you're using one when it's visibly not in your midst. That's hilariously exactly what seems to have gone down during the shooting of the 4th season of History's Vikings, with one poor extra being directed to, well, look like a bit of an idiot, as a number of rough-looking blokes set sail late on in episode 12. Watch closely as the scene cuts from a shot of Travis Fimmell's Ragnar to the many men keeping the boat moving in the right direction. Here you'll spot a bearded lad executing the action of rowing along with the rest of the unit, but without one vital piece of equipment, an oar. There must have been a way to block the scene so this clear lack of oar would have been slightly less obvious, but in the end the rather blatant error was either completely overlooked, or it was possibly caught just a bit too late on, with someone then deciding to leave the rather embarrassing visual of an oarsman not possessing the one tool that allows him to do his job in the completed episode, and just hoping nobody would spot it. But we did. Number 1, Courtney Cox's double gets her moment on the couch. Friends. As Phoebe tries to convince her mate to give Tim another chance in her restaurant in the one with Rachel's date, a shot of Lisa Kudrow in Central Perk suddenly brings with it a rather unexpected and unintentional cameo, with Courtney Cox likely off doing something else at the time, and the team behind the show feeling the moment could be completed without her. A stand-in was brought in for Phoebe's response of "love it" after accidentally criticizing her pal's hair. We've all been there, well not me because I don't have any, and while this sneaky trick may have been easier easier to get away with back when the show first aired on TVs that largely only had 4:3 aspect ratios all those years ago. This sort of actor stand-in swap now sticks out like a sore thumb in the wake of the episodes being altered for 16:9 aspect ratios. That particular double may not have expected to share a frame with an iconic friend, but those screens getting wider bizarrely resulted in this person getting a few cool, entirely inadvertent seconds in the spotlight. Well, sort of, she's kinda just on the edge of frame, but you get what I mean. And while I've got you, let's give a salute to the late great Matthew Perry. You will be missed, my friend. You will be missed. And that's our list. Know of any other TV mistakes that people won't believe made it to screen? Well, let us know all about them in the comment section right down below, and don't forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button while you're down there. Also, if you like this sort of stuff, then please head on over to whatculture.com and find some more fantastic articles just like the one this video you're watching right this second is based on. I've been Gareth from whatculture.com. Cheers for checking out this lovely video today. Hopefully I'll see you again very soon, but in the meantime, just be good to yourself. Bye bye!